Any turnovers. That's not going to get the job done, but I think just a lot of things to learn from. I didn't think we played well. And then,
what would you do if someone cheap shotted you during a basketball game? Caitlin Clark faced this exact situation against the Chicago Sky. Her response, it wasn't what anyone expected. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. You know what's crazier? This wasn't just a one-time thing. The Chicago Sky seemed to have it out for Clark all season long. 4 flagrant fouls in 4 games? That's not normal. It's like they had a bullseye on her back every time she stepped on the court. Let's break it down. The Sky's defense wasn't just tough, it was downright aggressive. We're talking about players getting in Clark's face, bumping her off her rhythm, and making every possession a battle. It's like they were trying to rattle her cage, see if they could make her lose her cool. And it wasn't just the flagrant fouls. There were countless other moments where the physicality was cranked up to 11.
Indiana Fever arguably playing and statistically playing some of the best basketball since the break.
I'm going to do my best. I mean, it's still really hard basketball, like playing at this level. You know, everybody's going to be, competing really hard coming back from the break, obviously with playoffs on the line.
Players crowding Clark's space, contesting every shot with a little extra oomph, and making sure she felt their presence on every play. It's the kind of defense that makes you check over your shoulder even when you're off the court. Now, you might be thinking, isn't this just part of the game? Sure, basketball's a physical sport, but there's a line between tough play and something that feels more like intimidation. And the Sky, they were dancing all over that line. This kind of aggressive play does something to a game. It changes the whole vibe on the court. For a player like Clark, who's used to lighting up the scoreboard, it's like trying to run through quicksand. Every move becomes a challenge, every possession a potential minefield. But here's where it gets interesting. This isn't just about Clark. It raises some big questions about the game itself. What's fair play? Where do we draw the line between tough defense and straight up bullying? And how does this kind of strategy impact the sport we love? For Clark, it was like being in a pressure cooker. Every game against the Sky turned into a test of not just her skills, but her patience and self-control. Imagine trying to focus on your game when you're constantly bracing for the next hit. It's enough to throw anyone off their game, and that's exactly what the Sky were hoping for. They wanted to see if they could crack Clark's composure, make her lose that legendary focus, because let's face it, when Clark's on her game, she's unstoppable. So if you can't beat her with skill, why not try to beat her with bruises? Clark was a powder keg ready to explode.
Has stepped up her game in that opportunity. Caitlin Clark for 3, rattles it around for her first deep shot.
Well, the first thing is I feel like I know if it's going in right off my hand, and I think that just speaks to how much time I put in and how many shots I've taken.
Caitlin Clark unloads!
But here's the twist. Sometimes the greatest strength isn't in fighting back, but in holding back. How would she navigate this razor's edge? Picture this. You're Caitlin Clark, standing on the court, your blood boiling after that cheap shot from DeShields. Every fiber of your being is screaming for payback. What do you do? For Clark, this wasn't just about one play. It was a moment that could define her entire career. The emotions were raw, the adrenaline pumping. She wanted to lash out to show DeShields and the whole Chicago Sky team that she wasn't someone to be messed with. But here's where it gets real. Clark knew that giving in to that impulse could cost her big time. We're talking technical fouls, possible suspension, letting her team down when they needed her most. It's like having an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other, both screaming in your ear. This is where Clark's true strength shined through. It's easy to be a star when everything's going your way, but when you're pushed to the edge, that's when you see what someone's really made of. Clark took a deep breath, she unclenched her fists, and instead of swinging, she turned and walked away.
Coach said they took 66 shots, we took 50. It's really hard to win games when you give them 16 more opportunities than we had.
Golden advice, recently being the first WNBA player that has recorded consecutive 20-plus point rebound games.
That right there. That's not just self-control, that's next-level mental toughness. You've got to understand, Clark isn't wired like most players. There's a fire in her that drives her to greatness, but it's her ability to control that fire, to use it to fuel her game instead of burning everything down, that sets her apart. Think about it. How many times have we seen talented players lose their cool and cost their team everything? Clark chose a different path. She channeled all that anger, all that frustration into her game. And let me tell you, that's way scarier for opponents than any punch could ever be. This moment wasn't just about avoiding a technical foul. It was about Clark showing the world what true leadership looks like. It's about rising above the cheap shots, the provocations, and focusing on what really matters, winning the game and being there for your team. Clark's decision in that split second speaks of volumes about her character. It's not just about being a great player.
Whips a pass, thread the needle, my goodness, what a play! And one chance for Temi and the Fever.
I had a lot of fun just playing and enjoying the atmosphere, like talking with the people courtside. Like, I was just trying to smile and have fun. Like, it doesn't really matter, like, win or loss.
It's about being a great person, someone who can keep their cool when the heat is on. That's the kind of player that teammates rally behind, that coaches trust in crunch time. And let's be real, it couldn't have been easy. The crowd was roaring, emotions were high, and Clark had every right to be furious. But she chose the harder path. She chose to be the bigger person. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Clark's reaction, it's not just about her, it's shaking up the whole game. You've seen fights break out in men's basketball, right? Well, this is different, and the reason why, that's what's got everyone talking. Let's flip the script for a second. Imagine if this went down in an NBA game. Picture LeBron or Steph Curry getting hit with a cheap shot like that. What do you think would happen? Chances are we'd be looking at a full-on brawl, complete with players charging from the bench and coaches trying to hold everyone back. It's almost expected, right? But Clark, she took the high road, and that's got people buzzing about the differences between men's and women's basketball. It's not just about the game anymore. It's about how players handle themselves when things get heated. Think about it. How often do we see players in any sport walk away from a situation like that? It's rare.
But she can also bang in the paint.
Another assist for Clark, a back cutting.
You know, I would have liked to play a little better tonight. I think all of us would say that if we were all sitting up here, and as a team collectively, we would have liked to play better. And
that's what makes Clark's response so powerful. She's not just playing basketball, she's changing the game. This incident is like a mirror held up to the world of sports. It's making us ask some big questions. What does real strength look like on the court? Is it about throwing punches, or is it about keeping your cool when everything inside you is screaming to fight back? Clark's decision to walk away isn't just good sportsmanship, it's next level professionalism. She's showing young players everywhere that you don't have to lose your cool to prove you're tough. In fact, it takes way more strength to hold back. And let's talk about the ripple effect. Clark's response is setting a new standard. It's like she's saying, hey, we can be fierce competitors without losing our humanity. That's huge for women's basketball. It's changing the whole vibe of the sport. You know what's wild? This one moment could shape how the next generation of players handles pressure. Imagine all the young ballers watching this go down. They're seeing that you can stand your ground without throwing a punch. That's a game changer. But here's the kicker. This isn't just about basketball, it's about life. Clark's showing us all how to handle those moments when someone pushes our button.
just have all the confidence in the world. The basket looks really big, so I know exactly how she felt. Like, she was just in the zone. Like,
The Sky shooting 38%. Caitlin Clark, another three-pointer.
It's like a masterclass in keeping your cool under fire. And let's be real, this kind of behavior elevates the whole sport. It's making women's basketball look good. People are taking notice. They're seeing that these athletes aren't just skilled, they're role models. The crazy thing is, Clark probably didn't even realize how big this moment was when it happened. She was just reacting in the heat of the moment, but that's what makes it so powerful. It wasn't staged or planned, it was pure instinct and character. This incident is like a fork in the road for women's basketball. It's setting a tone for how players handle conflict, and the path Clark chose, it's the high road, and it's paved with respect, dignity, and true sportsmanship.